Trev. Reynolds is the man to watch at the moment. Reynolds really is powering it on right now. Reynolds has got a lot of work to do on aggregate, but if he can stay with Goey all the way through, this could be the chance for John Reynolds to pick up 25 points here. Reynolds is 30 points off of Hodgson, and Hodgson is 6 points off of Walker, who leads the championship going into this race. So 36 points overall. John Reynolds from the top of the tree. And really, John Reynolds, he can pick up 25 here with Hodgson reversing back down the ranks and Chris Walker not being here anyway. And there he is. Reynolds is up to third place already. And it's his teammate Hayden, who we know is under team orders after Mallory Park, who is just 3 seconds in front of him. Now, with Reynolds' pace, I've been watching the monitor. Reynolds is really good. Him and Goey are the quickest two men on this track at this moment.
And after the first leg, Hayden and Reynolds were only a tenth of a second apart, Keith. So it's where they are on the track will tell us where they are overall.
Well, that's a great point, Jules. So watch out for Hayden as Reynolds gets it sideways. Applying the power through that Clearways corner, through Clark Curve onto the Brabham Straight. Really, really difficult. You want to get it squeezed on as hard as you can, but in these conditions, that whole motorcycle is trying to get out from underneath you.
If you're Neil Hodgson, you're obviously thinking, keep it upright. I'm going to get the championship lead back if I keep it upright. Is that going to be more to the front of your mind than winning?
Well, my point was earlier that obviously he's got to keep it upright. Something that Colin Wright has told him. And I mean, at the end of the day, he was only 6 points behind Walker going into this race anyway.
Yes.
So anything's going to be a bonus. No, I'll hedge me bets on that one, because being an ex-racer, racers still go for the win. You
Absolutely.
know? And I think that
that's the question I was asking, really.
Yeah, I think racers do. But then again, Hodgson had an early warning in part one of this race. He went straight on across this part of the track. So Hodgson has actually had a wake-up call very early on. So maybe it's just knocked the edge off him a bit for this restart. Anyway,
Rutter and Hayden, first and second on the track. They were second and third in the first half of the race. The man who won it Emmett's way back. But Hayden has to get past and take half a second, I remind you, out of Rutter to win the race overall.
James Hayden then right in the position with Michael Rutter and up the inside into Druids. Michael Rutter goes back behind James Hayden. So James Hayden is proving that he is up for this task. Now, well, the big question is, Julian, if he's in with, of course, team orders, doesn't mean he has to finish behind John Reynolds. It means he can hold up anybody that might take points off of John Reynolds. What can be argued here is Michael Rutter ain't one of them.
I was just going to say that. The way I see it, Keith, if it's team orders, Hayden has to finish behind Reynolds.
No, that's not necessarily the correct way of looking at it.
But, as you said earlier, he's got the race ahead on. He wants to win, doesn't he?
Well, that's an actual fact, but at the end of the day, team orders could mean that Hayden can win this race, taking 5 points away from Rutter. I mean, if Reynolds isn't in with a position of beating Rutter anyway, it doesn't really matter where Hayden is.
Sure, there's John Reynolds fourth on the track, just in your picture behind Gobert.
So, of course, the big problem here is that team orders and signalling have to coincide. Hayden has to know exactly where everyone is on the track. Really, Rutter and Gobert, who's there now in third place on the road, don't really count as far as the championship's concerned. So Hayden's got to watch out for what's going on. It's a nightmare scenario. Rutter, Hayden, Reynolds. And look at Reynolds. He's close right in. He's only 2 seconds behind Hayden now. So that means Reynolds is really on for a race win here. Emmett, Gobert and Hodgson on corrected time are the rest of the top 6. But really, Hayden has got a job where he's got to watch his pit board absolutely accurately. Otherwise, he could end up balking John Reynolds for a win.
So if you're Roger Marshall, what sign do you hang out to James Hayden?
I'm going home. Tea break sign.
We had this at the Grand Prix a couple of weeks ago in Spain when they hung out to one of the Derby guys. Fourth OK. Telling him not to overtake his teammate. Fourth OK.
I'd have thought that meant stay in fourth gear, but then again, I was a stupid rider. Down Paddock Hill, then up the other side, up Hayward Hill to Druids Corner. Hayden leads, but the man to watch is in fourth place on the road at the moment. Number 3, the Red Bull Ducati of John Reynolds. He is third in the championship, but on aggregate closing time, look at this. He's closing 2.4. Actually lost a bit there. Yeah, so he went back a little bit. So third place still for Reynolds.
Hayden out the saddle. Reynolds has another tenth to make up on Hayden. He's got to get past Hayden and put a small gap on him to beat him overall.
Hodgson fifth with his teammate Neil Mackenzie backing him up well in sixth place. So Hodgson, good solid points for him there in fifth place. I'd say that was a very intelligent ride from him. He let this lot get on with it at the front. Really, John Reynolds, the onus is on John Reynolds to actually gain enough places. He's got to get right with his teammate. We know that. Look at Gobert. He's looking at the inside now. Got good drive coming out there onto the Brabham Straight and up the inside of Michael Rutter. Unusual for Michael Rutter to get a rain ride in lesson. He just had one off the Aussie. Through has gone big Anthony Gobert,
who is not in contention for the race lead after his slow showing in part 1.
Well, you've got to say, after Mallory Park, though, just a couple of weeks ago, really, everyone had a bit of a slam at Goey. Well, he's the sort of guy that sets himself up for that, doesn't he, really? Bit of credit. Oh, Goey tips it in there with a rear end moving on. Gee, I've got to say, Anthony Gobert is riding that bike like it's on on rails, considering how he's chucking it through. So Gobert, bike 95, he has got real talent in the wet. No wonder he won that World Superbike round earlier in the year.
On the bimotor, no less.
Yeah, who would have ever thought one of those would have won this year?
You'd have got...
Even you wouldn't have backed that one.
You'd have paid the mortgage off.
Here we go. Look at the drive. He gets out of on the long Clearways and Clark curved corner. All goes into one onto the Brabham straight. Gets straight drive. Looks for the inside line now on Hayden and goes underneath Hayden into the braking area. That is another class move there from Anthony Gobert. So
makes it look so effortless.
Well, it is effortless for him. He's making it effortless. I mean, the guy's back markers. That's going to be a problem.
Oh, great.
Let's see if the Go Show sorts out the go slows.
We shall see. Michael Rutter still in close contention. Third place on the road.
Reynolds, though. Reynolds is the one. Look at JR on bike number 3 at the back of this 4. Now, JR, if he catches... Well, it's Rutter and Hayden are the two that Reynolds has got to get by. Look at that, 1.5 it's down to now, 1.5 on Rutter, so 1.5 seconds, and Reynolds has the pace over these two to make a pass, I reckon. He really is comfortable.
Oh, look at this, Keith.
Yeah, this could be bad, though. Back markers are going to make a big difference. Reynolds could really find himself the poor relation to be the last of the 4 quick guys trying to cut their way, and he's going to catch him at paddock, which I wouldn't want to have to do, really. Through has gone Gobert, round the outside has gone Hayden. Next up will be Rutter. He'll get him on the brakes going underneath into the turn.
John Reynolds got caught out by at least one of the back markers.
Yeah, Nicole Roberts on bike 33. Did Reynolds get it? No, he didn't. He got stuck behind him. That has cost John. Oh, and he waved. Oh, that's unusual for John Reynolds to be unhappy. Obviously, the blue flags are being waved, but in these conditions, of course, hard for riders to see it. Michael Rutter then takes up the chase. Michael Rutter has taken up the chase. I was almost watching John Reynolds too much. What a race this is.
Oh, the worst conditions you can think of, and look at the race they're giving us.
Yeah, you just do not know how hard this is to ride in.
I've got a faint idea, and lots of people have ridden here in fairly awful conditions, of course, and they're not going home because they're seeing one of the great riders of World Superbikes in the past few years putting on a demonstration of how to ride in the wet.
Well, who'd have thought after that Mallory showing that Anthony Gobert would be up for this? I mean, he's ring rusty anyway. The bloke will be after this. He hasn't...
Very amusing. As Hayden looks to take second place back on the road and gets it. Now John Reynolds, there's a man doing the calculations.
There's 2 men there. John Crawford as well, of course. That's John Crawford to the right, Chris Walker to the left. Keeping an eye on where that man is. Neil Hodgson with Neil McKenzie tucked right in his exhaust pipes there. That's perfect as far as he's concerned.
What a great old pro's job that is.
Nice little 5th place will do for Hodgson. He'll grab those points. He'll go in front of Chris Walker in the championship going into race 2 today. Meanwhile, Anthony Gobert going for glory. Next up to be passed is Lee Humphries on the R&FH Racing Team Kawasaki. Rutter, Hayden, Reynolds, 2.3. Those back markers did him bad there. Reynolds has dropped back to a 2.3 second gap now after it being 1.5. Even Goey's having a hard time getting around the outside of him.
And Hodgson has got problems if David Jeffries gets any closer. Hayden's bike's been on the move all the time.
Yeah, that's James Hayden asking for a hole over. I mean, I just see Steve Plater go through the screen. Steve Plater did actually go out. Well, I didn't think he was going to bother. He was a lap down at the restart, of course, because of his aggregate time. So Steve Plater, I think, just setting his bike up for the wet for a bit later on, having a bit of fun. Here he is, 22, 95, Gobert goes through. Yeah, but look at the professional. Plater has seen the blue flags and moves over. Some of these back markers, look, the back markers are overtaking Steve Plater as opposed to watching what the hell they should be watching, which are the marshal's flags. I mean, that's no big criticism of Lee Humphries, because I have to say, riding in these conditions is hard enough as it is, without having to watch out for what's going on around you quite as much as he's having to do.
And on this short circuit,
well, 1.2 miles, that's exactly right, you're spot on. Reynolds, 1.8. Reynolds is closing back in, he's regained his momentum. Reynolds, 1.8 seconds. Now then, Rutter's run a little wide. Now, does that give Reynolds a bit of drive through clearways and onto the front straight to try and pass him?
Sean Emmett now closing in on Hodgson.
Oh, and he gets drive. Reynolds gets drive up the inside of Ray Stringer's level 3 Yamaha. It's Michael Rutter on board, but it's now John Reynolds going the hard way under. He had to push Michael Rutter out there. Rutter was not going to give way. So Michael, well, he toughed it out, but tough luck, he didn't do so good. 99 coming into view. That's David Hill, the leader in the privateers. He leads the privateers championship at the moment.
Double at Mallory last time.
So not having a good day here in the rain, and you would have expected Dave Hill here.
Question.
Let's have a look at this before you question. John Reynolds then gets the drive, like I said, out of clearways onto Clark and onto the Brabham straight, and then straight underneath. Now then, this is what it's all about. Reynolds and Hayden. Will Hayden help Reynolds, or will he help himself?
I would be very surprised if Hayden doesn't move over and let JR through, wouldn't you?
Well, it's down, at the end of the day, it's down to team. The team have to give the indication to James Hayden for what he should do, because it's an aggregate race, which makes it doubly difficult. It's not just a case of helping your teamate on the track. Oof. You have to keep an eye on what's going on with all the other riders around you. So Hayden has to have the signals from his team to make sure he knows to make the right decision.
But him and Reynolds were only a tenth apart. Tenth of a second after part one.
What you're saying, it doesn't take a brain surgeon to work out that you've got to let John through.